Hello everyone and welcome to another Warhammer 9th... Oh no, it's not a battle report, is it? It's a fucking podcast. Jesus Christ, Nathan, get it together. Yes, my name is Nathan, aka The Mazer, and joining me today is Dan, aka the Little Willy.
We ate beans today and I can't stop farting.
You're a beaner. And
I'm a
then
bean boy.
James is not with us currently, but he will be joining us halfway through to do his usual lore segment. But today we are talking about the Orcs, a favourite faction of mine, one that seems to be doing extremely well in the current meta, kind of in a sort of we have three good units sort of way. But first things first, if you would like to support the channel, you can join us at patreon.com/lightningassault. If you would like to have any of your stuff painted or inquire about getting your stuff painted, you can find James at the Mad Magos on Fiverr, fiverr.com/madmagospaints. And you can have a look at the meadery at facebook.com/lightningassaultmeadery and www.lightningassaultmeadery.com. And you can also join our Discord, which the link is below because it's a bunch of gumbled letters and numbers and everything. But on to the main attraction is the Orcs, who they're kind of my favorite faction now, even though I'm like a hardcore Custodes player, and I very, very rarely get to play the Orcs that often. But I want to. The only issue we've had is they've not been painted, so I've sort of agreed a sort of 2-month half paint in November, half paint in December painting guide with James. So he's going to paint a large portion of the army for me. I'm going to get him to commission them. And I'm just going to finish off a few bits like my Weird Boy and the Kill Rig that I've already started. So hopefully in the new year, we'll get to play Orcs. However, Orcs have been kind of crushing GTs lately. And I feel there's an FAQ on the horizon. I think
that's gonna be months away, mate. Look at AdMech.
Well, they did change AdMech. They did FAQ AdMech and they did FAQ Jakari, just not heavily. If you remember.
Nowhere near enough. Nowhere near
enough. But I do think there is something gonna sort of occur soon. I just don't know what it is. I don't know how they're gonna fix it. Either they're going to fix the freebooters ability, or they're going to adjust the Daca Jets and the Squig buggies. I'm not really sure how. So for anyone that's not aware of how Orcs function at the moment, they have like everybody plays freebooters, which is +1 to hit when you destroy a whole unit for all of your freebooters units, which is quite good. So it takes Orcs from a 5-up ballistic skill to a 4-up. And
which is pretty big.
Yeah, it's huge for Orcs. And then they have Daca Jets, which put out like 36 to 42 strength 5 1 damage shots, which is just a lot of fucking shots. And the Squig buggies, which are basically the perfect marine killers, and they can shoot out a line of sight. But we'll get onto the units in a bit. But obviously at the moment, competitively wise, there's 2 or 3 units that are busted as hell, and they're sort of bringing the pain. But first of all, we'll start off with a bit more light-hearted stuff. Finding memes for the Orcs was laughably easy. I mean, there's like...
I mean, they are just one big meme.
They are the literal meme lords. They are let your memes be dreams and let your dreams be memes, because they believe it hard enough. They will bring the memes. Hey, he's here.
He's alive.
I'm alive. Sorry, boys.
No worries. He brings good tidings. You're here a lot earlier than I expected.
I am. Sorry for the delay, guys. I don't know if Nathan explained.
No,
basically, really busy family day. Ended up going out for Sunday lunch and seeing a fireworks display with the family, and then raced home as soon as the fireworks ended, kind of be with you guys. So sorry for the delay.
Oh, that's fine. We were gonna let you off until 1:30, my man.
That's fine. Continue as you were.
Yeah. So the meme lords that are the Orcs. The Orcs. For anyone that's not aware of how the lore for Orcs works, if Orcs believe in it hard enough, it becomes true. So they have a lot of tech that shouldn't work, but it does because they think it does. If an Orc drives out in a vehicle and it's got no fuel in it, as long as he believes He put fuel in it. It will run with fuel. So there's the meme. If the Humies can't figure out, no, sorry. Yeah. If the Humies can't figure out how our tech works, if we can't, no, I've said that completely wrong. They can't figure out how our tech works if we can't either. Can't even fucking understand orc words. Because they're all fucking Dick Van Dyke British people. There's also a really funny YouTube video which I clipped this next meme from, and I can't remember where or when it originated from, but it's quite old, and it's about the orcs who they become literate and they learn how to read and write, and it's like, we've been writing in red because red makes you go faster. So our boss said, "Oi, maybe it'd make your gits learn faster." So we wrote in red, and now we smarter, and we almost stopped fighting to contemplate life. But it got Barbog all depressed, and he crumped himself. So now the boss says we can't read no more. So
that's amazing.
You know, a lot of people say that if the orcs actually organise themselves and stop fighting amongst themselves, they'd be the most dangerous like army in the game.
Yeah, race.
In the rules.
Yeah. I do have another similar story of that's actually really funny. So an Inquisitor captures an orc. They're taken back to the holding cells, etc. And they're doing experiments on them. And they want to test the whole war energy thing. So they give him a shooter and give him a target, and they put up a photograph of an Imperial Guardsman. And the orc goes, "Wah! Daca, 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 daca," and start shooting. So they go, right. So then they gas the orc, knock him out, take the shooter out of the room, take the firing pin out of the shooter, put it back in the room, and wake him up. Same experiment. Picture of a guardsman. Wah! Daca, 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 daca. And the bullets still keep flying. And they're looking at each other going, eh? So they knock him out again. They strip the gun till it's just a trigger and a barrel and give him it. Same experiment. And he goes, "Wah! Daca, 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 daca," and still shooting bullets. And they're like, what the actual fuck? So at this point, they're going, right, try this. So they knock him out. They give him a stick, wake him up. And he looks at the stick, and the stick's the shape of a gun. And he goes, "Wah! Daca, 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 daca." And at this point, they're just looking at each other going, well, how the hell are we supposed to be out with this?
There's a I can't remember where I read it, but there's a very similar story as well. Hakuguard's with us, and so's Andy.
Hello, boys.
Even Hakuguard says that in the lore they shove metal into a funnel, attach it to a gun, and it still works. There's a story, and I don't know where it originates from or what book it's from, but I'm pretty sure it's in Games Workshop lore, where a bunch of like assault marines strike an orc ship in space, and they go to like the engine room to take out the engine of the ship and to like immobilize it, and they get into the engine room and it's just a piece of paper with an engine drawn on it, and they're like, "How do we do this?" So orcs. And then there's also the classic meme of the guy selling a car to someone, except it's two orcs, and they slap the trunk of the truck and it just explodes. And then my favorite one, which I reference quite frequently, is the picture of the orc where he goes, "This makes my chopper the big chopper," in terms of mad erections, because orcs like choppers of every size. They have numerous sizes of choppers. They've got choppers, they've got big choppers, they've got huge choppers, they've got head whoppers kill chopper, and numerous more other kinds of choppers. Anyway, as you're here, would you like to do your lore section first, or would you like to delay it until towards the end?
I think I'll delay it towards the end, and I'll just let you two carry on, because,
In that case, let's get on to the... Oh, yes, James, they have... other James, Hakuguard James. Yes, they do have mega choppers. I forgot about mega choppers. So in the rules, they have a shitload of cultures, because orcs are the most culturally enriched race in the entire game.
They are cultured gentlemen.
They are, metropolitan, if nothing else. So they have all their cultures basically follow a color scheme, pretty much. So the blue is lucky, because Ultramarines are the luckiest space marines in the galaxy. Therefore, the blue orcs are ultra lucky. They're the Death Scrolls. They get to reroll dice. just for nothing. Evil Sons, red ones go faster. They're the speed freaks. They've got vehicles, paint them red, and they believe that because they're red, they go faster, and by God, they do. It's actually a really good board game called Speed Freaks, but it's out of production, and I kind of wanted to get it, but I don't know if you can even get it even on eBay anymore because it's such a limited run. Pretty cool game. There's the Bad Moons, who are the richest clan because orcs use orc teeth as currency, and the Bad Moons are the richest clan because their teeth grow faster than everyone else's, so they basically grow their own currency faster than all the rest of the orcs, so they're rich. Freebooters are just pirate orcs. Blood Axes are like the sneakiest orcs. They're like commandos. They're like the Katachan of the orcs.
Ah, yes, blood and axes is what makes an orc sneaky.
Yep. They've got the snake bites, who are like the classic tribal orcs. They do orc kind and orc culture in the old ways. So they wear like beast pelts and
instead of Stone Age, they're like straight ass like
they've got axes made of leather.
Neanderthals.
Yeah. Together, orcs strong. I'm trying to think. Is there any other orcs that I've missed out?
You said snake bites. You said freebooters. Who's the one?
Goths.
Basically...
Fucking Goths. Jesus Christ. How could I forget Goths? My favourites. So Goths are all about fighting. They don't like to shoot.
The fightiest.
They just like to get stuck in and crump hand to hand. You know, they like to crump themselves. And I believe that's it. They also believe...
Did you say Evil Sons?
Yeah, the fast ones, yeah. That's it. That's all the cultures. I'm positive that's all the cultures. They also believe that purple is the sneakiest colour. Because have you ever seen a purple orc? Exactly. Invisible. Makes them invisible. So those are the... Huge. Yeah, yeah, it is huge. Those are the clans. Let me jump straight past onto the army abilities. So
hang on, just very quickly.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure one of your Squig hugs is purple. So does that mean really all the other orcs just see a guy?
He's just riding on nothing.
He's riding thin air.
Invisible Squig. Speaking of Squigs, they have Squigs for everything. I don't want to steal too much of your lore thunder, but they have Squigs for oil, Squigs for poison. Also, I learned not too long ago that no orc has hair.
No.
It's just a squig. It's a hair squig that chomps down on their head and gives them a ponytail. Which I just like.
What?
Yeah. Check. Well, hang on. Let me hair squig. Let me find it. Yeah, here we go. I mean, I'll post it in Hairy Squigs. Copy link address. Let me find the Discord. I'll
tell me more about your hairy squig, Nathan.
Spicy. Noise. They have squigs for everything. In terms of army ride rules, they recently got a codex, so a lot of stuff has changed. Not too much though. Mostly for the better. They've got Here We Go, which they did nerf a little bit, but it's still an awesome ability. So Here We Go is something that affects pretty much every orc unit in the codex. You get to reroll charge rolls, which is great. It's just a free charge reroll, so you don't have to spend CP because orcs are a very fighty faction. It used to be reroll one or both of the dice, but they sort of nerfed it a bit because it was a little bit too strong. With the advent of the new codex, we got a shitload of beast snagger type boys, which while they are sort of aligned to snake bites, you can use them in any faction. And the beast snagger rule just makes it so that they have a base 6-up invul, which is really good because orcs have no armor whatsoever. And they go from a normal 6-up save, a t-shirt save as everyone calls it, to a 6-up invul. And they can add one to their hit rolls against vehicles and monsters because they're good at killing big beastie boys.
Like cars and that.
Yeah, a beast snagger. They're like not Neanderthals. What are they called? Luddites. They're literal Luddites. Like the Luddites of the olden times went and burned down windmills because they were afraid of progress. And snake bites are very similar. They see a car.
Heresy, bro.
They see a car. They're riding on their hair squigs, and they see a car and they're like, this cannot stand, and they hit cars real good. They have Daca Weapons, which changed. So, yeah, they're literally Victorian Luddites. God. They have Daca Weapons. So Daca used to be exploding sixes to hit, would generate additional hits, but they changed it. So it's like a pseudo rapid fire. So if you're within half range, you get like a third extra shots. So there's quite a lot of weapons that have been switched over to Daca Weapons. And I believe there's a couple of stratagems and abilities and whatnot that can affect the amount of shots you get with Daca guns. So mob rule means that as long as a unit that is less than half strength is within 6 inches of the unit that isn't at half strength, they don't take the penalty to morale tests. It used to be the Orc squad morale is the same as the number of models in the unit. So you used to have 30-man boy squads that had a morale of 30. So
30-man boy squad.
Yeah. It was a little bit silly, to be honest. They were the most fearless army in the game until you shot them to death.
At which point it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, pretty much. They've got ramshackle on most of their vehicles, excluding their big vehicles like the Stomper, that's it, and what are their knights called? The Gorkanaut and the Morkanaut. And ramshackle is basically -1 damage taken by any weapon that's got a strength of less than 8. But melters and las cannons aren't affected because they're strength 8 and 9. And then the final ability is they've changed the war. They've actually made a war a thing now, which is kind of nice. And there's 2 kinds of war. And the war can only be called by a warlord. So depending on how you build your army, depends on what kind of war you can call. It can either be a normal war, which just affects Orc core and Orc character units. And it gives them +1 to their attack characteristics and allows them to advance and charge for a turn. And then on the second turn, it just gives them +1 to their attack characteristics. So you have like a 2-turn army boost that you should use at sort of the right time. And then there's a speed war, which only affects Orc vehicle and Orc bikers. And it means they do not suffer the penalty when firing assault weapons after they advance. And they get to make an additional attack with Daca Weapons. So your Orc bikers can advance and still shoot without penalty, and their Daca guns become obscenely powerful in terms of the amount of shots. And they also get to improve the armor penetration by 1. And then the second turn, they get the armor pen, but not the extra Daca shot. So it's just like a little, it's like literally calling a war. You get a little bit of a boost for your army. But you can only call 1, and it can only be called by a warlord. If your warlord has the speed 3 keyword, he can call a speed war, but he can't call a normal war. And if your warlord doesn't have the speed 3 keyword, just has the standard Orc keywords, then he can call a standard war and can't call a speed war, with the exception of, and this brings us nicely onto our segue into the unit section, Gazgul Thracker, the biggest hardest boss there ever was, who's had his head chopped off numerous times, and has been absolutely decimated in various ways, but now he's been sort of sellotaped into an armored body that is absolutely enormous. His model's changed so much. Like the original model from, God, when was it?
Second
It was like
edition?
2nd edition. He was on like a 25mm base, and he was about the size of, about a head taller than a garrote. And he had like a stupid like flag on his back. And then they updated him with a resin model where he's in like mega armor. And he was about as tall as a sort of Space Marine captain is now, an Indomitus Space Marine captain. And then he got his head chopped off. No. Didn't he? Oh, he got his arm chopped off by the Imperial Guard guy, by Yarrick.
Commissioner Yarrick, yeah.
And then he got his head chopped off by Ragnar. Was it Ragnar?
Was it Ragnar?
Yeah, I think it was Ragnar.
Yeah, in the last Saga of the Beast.
Yeah. And so every time he gets something chopped off, he gets bigger. And so he has a warlord trait that I believe is called the biggest boss. And he can call both wars at the same time, which is kind of a good reason to bring him in the Supreme Command Detachment
Do you
slot.
think he chops his dick off?
Make it bigger. A huge chopper. It makes his chopper the big chopper. Yeah. So he gives 4 hit rerolls for Goths in melee, but he can be taken in any clan. He can only lose 4 wounds per phase. He does have a degrading stat line, but he gets less strength but more attacks the more he's damaged. And when he's like not damaged, he's strength 14, AP -5, flat 4 damage.
He hits good.
So he hits good. He crumps good. And I'm pretty sure there's a strat. It might just be for Mega Knobs. I can't remember. I think
it's called the soundboard, Nathan. You should be spamming that. That's a lot of damage.
Yeah, I know. I haven't got the soundboard running for this. I was just going to run it for the battle reports. Yeah, the soundboard is ready. I've got a load more sounds to put on it, but it is functional. Yeah, I think there's a strat called Hit 'em Harder. I can't remember if it's just for like Mega Knobs or something, but it gives +1 damage to all melee weapons, so it makes him strength 14, -5, flat 5.
That's huge. Is that only on headquarters or something, or just?
Oh, let me check. I'm pretty.
Because that's like huge in just on boys.
It's huge chopper.
Massive chopper.
Stratagems by phase. Fight phase. Hit him harder. It's Mega Knobs only.
Yeah. I was gonna say like 2 damage. No, your knobs up.
Yeah, it is. It is bizarrely like. Even on Mega Knobs, because the Mega Knobs have what do you call it? The kill saws and the power claws, so they already do like flat 3 damage. So the Mega Knobs with Hit 'em Harder get a little bit obscene. The only issue is getting them into melee because they're quite slow. But you can give him Unbridled Carnage, which means he gets exploding hit rolls of 5.
Spite.
Which is kind of nice, but it is 2 CP. But to be fair, Orcs don't have a huge amount of useful stratagems, so it's kind of worth using it on him, especially if he goes toe-to-toe with a knight. And yeah, like I said, he can call both wars. Aside from that in the HQ slot, we've got a couple of others. There's tons of named HQs, but I'm only going to cover a couple of the more generic, sort of popular ones that people run in armies, to give people more of a general idea of what is good in Orcs, because their codex is quite big in terms of data sheets. They have a lot of units, and for the most part, as long as you're not looking too closely at troops, a lot of their data sheets are actually reasonably interesting, pretty good. But yeah, next up is the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, the universally feared HQ, who is either unkillable if you give him the Beast Hide Mantle and whatever else it is, or he fucks. He fucks good.
He slams.
Yeah. Next up, we have a stat sheet that's been removed and re-added more times than I can count. And that's the War Boss on Warbike. He was originally in the Index, I think, because he only exists as a Forge World model. And then they removed him and made him Legend, and then everyone complained. And so they were like, okay, we'll bring him back. But he still doesn't technically have a proper model. It's just like this old booky-ass Forge World resin model that's they make it look good when they paint it.
What you're telling me is Orc players literally willed one of the characters back into existence.
Yes, they did.
Fucking amazing. I wish I could do that with the Vect. Have you seen like the old model for Vect when he's got like 2 slave girls on it? That was ridiculous, man.
It was hilarious. I thoroughly enjoyed that. But yeah, weird stuff. Yeah, so he's the Warboss on Warbike. So this guy, most people kit bash him. James currently has my kit bash version that's made out of it's a Gore Grunter with some assault cannons magnetized to the side of him. He's basically a melee missile. I think you guys have witnessed him when Chris played him, because I think Chris played Orcs and he had a Warboss on Warbike.
Yeah.
But not to its full effect, shall we say. And he's basically kind of like a solo like melee missile character. So unlike the unkillable bike captain, he's very much killable. But if you can get him in melee with like one key target, he'll kind of like one-shot it and then die. So I think it's you give him the killer claw and brutal but cunning, and as Goths he gets an extra AP on the charge, exploding 6s in melee, and obviously when you call a war he gets extra stuff as well. So yeah, he's a very good army multiplayer for speed freaks as well. He's just fast and can kind of kill something. That's pretty much it in terms of characters. There's quite a lot of lore characters that actually have models in the game that are all relatively decent. I'm just looking at the stream quality, and YouTube's complaining that our bitrate's below 3000 kbps, but it seems to have picked up, so I'll carry on anyway. Next up, we've got the lads, the boys, the Snugger boys. Sadly, regrettably, the original boys are still in the game, but I believe it was Auspex Tactics. He did like a full mathematical breakdown on Snugger boys and normal boys.
Right.
And point for point, the Snugger boys are more durable and do more damage in melee against every single target except guardsmen. So if you feel like list tailoring and you're going against Imperial Guard, then by all means take your normal boys. But for the most part, if you want to take infantry as Orcs, it's going to be Snugger boys if you're playing competitively and want to go to most effect. So these guys have that Beast Snagger keyword, so they get that 6-up invuln and +1 to hit vehicle or monsters as standard. A squad of 10 has 41 strength 5, AP -2, flat 1 damage melee attacks during a war as Goths. And it's just AP 1 if you're non-Goths. But if they're near a Warlord, they get +1 to hit in melee, so they're hitting on 2s. So they're hitting on 2s, wounding Space Marines on 3s, AP -1 with 41 attacks, which is pretty good, all things considered. I think Dan has witnessed the Orc boys back in 8th edition against Rukari, where it was quite weird, where you'd have this huge lump of 30 boys, and they'd get in melee with something, and they'd have exploding 6s natively, and they kind of wouldn't do much. I think
They kind of did, but at the same time, sometimes they absolutely trashed stuff.
yeah, it was a difficult one. Sometimes
again, I think it was a lack of AP.
It was because they were strength 4, AP 0, 1 damage. They just kind of they hit and wounded fine, but because of this just general good saves across most armies except like Orcs, they kind of never really connected very well. But with this new chopper profile and the new Snugger boys, they're a lot more dangerous than they were before.
They got AP now, don't they?
Yeah, they're flat AP 1, and as Goths they get AP +1 when they charge. So 5 AP
Massive,
-2,
yeah.
1 damage. Yeah,
That's huge.
Nice.
James has witnessed an entire Beast Snagger army tank 2 other armies for about 4 rounds. They're surprisingly durable.
Yeah.
It was just a shitload of Beast Snagger boys, a shitload of Squig Hog boys, the Squig boss, Beast boss on Squigosaur, and it was James's Blood Angels and my brother's Dark Angels. And the Orcs just kept them tied up for several rounds. They eventually did die, and we did lose the game, but they're weirdly durable.
The biggest and the hardest.
It was the Beast Boss on the Squigosaur. I think he tanked in the end 2 turns of
He killed
six
3
Blade Guard.
squads of Blade Guard.
He did. He killed 3 squads of Blade Guard, went through Squig, and then in the end, I think it was Terminators.
Yeah.
Deathwing Terminators that finally chipped the last couple of wounds off him.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
It was mad. He is such a solid model. And he was just backed up by a lot of beast snagger boys that they didn't necessarily murder and get that far ahead, but they kept everything at bay, which was kind of their sole purpose.
One beast snagger a day keeps the blood angels at bay.
Pretty much. Blood Angel Blade Guard for sure. Next up, we've got the Orc Commandos, which have kind of become a bit of a staple in every Orc army because in 9th edition, a lot of people try to go for that first turn hold more or stranglehold or whatever, so they run infiltrators. Most Space Marine players run infiltrators or incursors, and everybody's sort of bringing some kind of infiltrator type unit. And Orcs are no different. They have the Orc Commandos, but the added benefit of the Orc Commandos is that they're specifically designed to counter enemy infiltrators. So they have the infiltration rule, but they get +2 to their armor save as long as they're within 3 inches of or within 1 inch of cover, as well as the cover save. So they get an amazing save in cover, but they also get extra. I think it's extra to hit or to wound against enemy units that are in cover, so they can fuck up your opponent's infiltrators really hard. And there's a custom culture that you can take called Sneaky Gits that improves their AP again when they're fighting something in cover. So if you counter deploy your commandos near your opponent's infiltrators or incursors or whatever it is, the commandos will quite happily completely destroy them in pretty much a single round. And obviously with the new Kill Team bundle coming out, their datasheet now has a fuck ton of loadout options. They've got like flamers, shooters, thump guns. They've got like a tactical breaching ram. And all sorts of wacky shit. So Orc Commandos are definitely like 100% recommend put them in every army just because they're solid. And they'll probably die after 1 or 2 turns, but as long as they grab that objective before the game has started, then they've done their job and they're cheap. So it's,
have they got new models yet? Are they still running shitty?
So they've obviously got the resin ones are the ones that are widely available, and the Kill Team ones are the ones that are usable in 9th edition. And I believe you can pick up the warband by itself without having to buy all the rules. Let me have a quick check.
And to be fair, lad, let's be honest, when it comes to, unless you go into an official GW tournament, I think the Orc range is probably one of the largest third-party, like every unit is covered. Do you know what I mean? Tenfold.
But that's illegal.
Oh man!
I'm just seeing if I can.
I'm gonna call the GW police on you, dude.
Yeah, man. I have seen some awesome third-party sculpts, so you can get like full-on rock bands and everything.
I'm not surprised at all. I'm just seeing if I can find the Orc Kill Team. I don't think you can buy the Orc Kill Team yet. I think you have to buy the starter set with the Orcs and the what are they called? Death Corps of Krieg. But there is a box that contains just the Orcs on its way. So they usually do that. But I'm not sure when it's coming out. I would assume just in time for Christmas.
For Christmas, yeah.
So yeah, Orc Commandos, solid unit choice, cheap, probably an auto included in every army. Next up, as we've mentioned before, the Mega Knobs, who have been sort of.
Let me tell you about my Mega Knob.
Yours is a little knob. Yours is the little chopper.
I have the littlest chopper.
It's
a sneaky one.
Yeah, it's the sneakiest of choppers.
You paid the purple.
Dan, do you use the stratagem hit 'em harder?
Every time.
Tactical breaching ram.
Damn right.
Anyway, these have been renamed by the community for the best part of a few years as MANZ. MANZ. Because if you shorten mega knobs, it makes MANZ. And so I remember the first time I joined the hobby, I kept seeing people write the word MANZ, Orc MANZ, and I was like, what the fuck is this unit people are talking about? It doesn't exist in the codex. And Bolter and Chainsword's forum has this really useful function where it will, if you hover over a commonly used nickname, it will tell you what it stands for. And I was like, oh, mega knobs. That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, it seems to be what everyone refers to them these days. They're basically the orc equivalent to the Terminators, with the exception that they don't have an invuln. So they've got a base 2-up save, high toughness, high wounds. They have built-in deep strike. They've got teleporters.
Banged up teleporters.
Yeah, pretty much. And they have that strat, hit them harder for +1 damage. You can build them either with shitloads of guns, like the custom Mega Blasters, which are plasma gun equivalents, or you can build them for as can openers with the kill saws and the power claws. But like I said, they're pretty slow. They're only 5-inch movement. They're kind of like the Death Guard Terminators. Super tough, loads of fucking damage in melee, but they take fucking ages to get them into melee. Or you just get a lucky 9-inch charge on the deep strike with a reroll, and here we go. Yeah, so
Or teleport them.
yeah, it's a valid strategy. And that's pretty much it for troops, I believe. The rest of it is more along the lines of the speed freaks. The first one, the first cart, is probably one of my favorites, is the Megatrack Scrap Jet, which is a jet plane with a track attached to the back of it, which has a shitload of missiles and a couple of heavy like shooter type things. It has like a weird array of shooting and melee. It's got like the equivalent of heavy bolters plus anti-tank missiles, but obviously it only hits on a 5-up, so it's laughably unreliable. The main draw of it is A, it's fast as fuck, and B, it does mortal wounds on the charge, and it has a relatively decent melee output on it as well. So a lot of people tend to run 3 of these alongside some other buggies. Speaking of other buggies...
No!
So this...
I don't wanna!
This one is going to get nerfed. This is the Rooker Truck Squig buggy. Every orc player in tournaments is running like 18 of these fucking things. And so they ignore line of sight. They have 5 -2 flat 2 damage artillery, a 5 -1 damage artillery, and a shitload of other guns, and they could shoot their pistols and grenades at the same time as their artillery if they so choose, and something's in range. Yeah, and they get +1 to hit with their big piece of artillery because they've got a targeting squig. So it's just not okay, really.
No.
It's cheap as hell. It's like 80 points or 85 points or something like that. Anything that ignores line of sight appears to break the game. Like, do you remember the Thunderfire Cannon in the days of yore? The Basilisk, when we had fucking, what was it? That custom book, the Vigilus Defiant book with the fancy Basilisk.
No, I'm like, as busted as it is, like, I wouldn't mind seeing those kind of rules go, especially in a game, especially where the game is so like heavily focused on objectives now and making full use of cover and stuff. Line of sight ignoring weapons need to kind of go. I get it, they're cool, thematic, but
yeah,
it's you just make, if you give them line of sight, you just don't make them as strong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Like, the Basilisk is fine as it is, but this thing, it's just too cheap. The Basilisk is like 110, 120 points. This thing's like 80. And it murders Marines. absolutely fucking murders Marines, and it hits as well as a Basilisk. It's just very, very problematic at the moment. So I fully expect this to get nerfed. But if you are a meta chaser, buy as many of these as you can legally fit in an army, and laugh in freebooters.
And then when they get nerfed, you cry and
then you cry.
Put them on a shelf and never use them again.
Yeah, then you cry in blood axes, because I think that's where the army's going to go competitively. I think everyone's just going to run blood axes instead of freebooters. Speaking of blood axes and the old ways, Squig Hog Boys. I actually really like these, and I've used them to great effect, and I think I'm going to include a lot of them in every army I ever build, unless they change. They're really fucking cheap cavalry units that are the Beast Snagger keyword, so they've got the 6 up invuln and +1 to hit vehicles and monsters. They're fast as hell. They've got like a 12-inch move. They've got, I think, 3 wounds each. They're toughness 5 or 6 or something weird like that. They're super fucking cheap. They're like 20-something points a model. They're like cost the same as a Space Marine. They get shitloads of attacks because each Orc on them has a bunch of attacks, and then there's a grot on the back of them that has a bunch of attacks, and then the Squig Hogs that they're riding also get a bunch of attacks. They're just really fucking good, and even though they're only like 3 wounds a pop, they do take a while to burn through. Like the game we played where it was a doubles game, did I bring 9? I think it was 9. And it took you guys a long time to get through all 3 squads. I was quite surprised at how durable they were. I was a little bit worried that they'd die really quick, but yeah, I'm thoroughly impressed with these guys.
No. I mean, it's. I think mainly it's the. Did you say the T6, aren't they?
I think.
Yeah,
so.
they just got a good stat line, don't they?
Yeah.
So it's a T6 versus strength for weapons, isn't it?
Yeah.
But because it's 2 above. So you're wounding on 5s and 6s.
Yeah, they just started well.
This is the other thing that I find really strange about them. So Orcs normally only have a 6-up save and then a 6-up invuln if they're Beast Snaggers or Death Skulls. But these guys have a 4-up save, just like, which is not common at all. So they're T6, 3 wounds, and they've got a 4-up save. And then obviously if you run them as they're Beast Snaggers, so they've got a 6-up invuln as well. 25 points a model. 10-inch move, 3-up weapon skill, and they just have a shitload of attacks. Just a fuckload of attacks. And you can also bring a bomb squig with them, but yeah, it's like a...
I think the only way to really deal with them is to probably list tailor something specifically to bring them down.
Yeah.
I think probably a few squads with auto cannons, or I suppose even to a certain extent assault cannons, because they tend to be strength 5, don't they? Assault cannons? No, they're strength 4, aren't they?
I can't remember.
No, I'd say that's the thing. It's like that toughness 6 is tricky because it's
autocannons.
Like,
that's the only thing that would deal with them. Autocannons. And
melters, mate. Melters.
Because you say melters, but they're still getting the invul against melters and las cannons.
Yeah, but that's only a 6.
Yeah, and interestingly, they have a strat called Tough as Squig Hide that gives them transhuman. So they do
definitely melt.
They do have a transhuman stratagem. They also have a strat that gives them +1 to wound against any monster or vehicle. So they're getting +1 to hit and +1 to wound. So they can kind of fuck up a knight. Just these shitty little orcs riding piggies.
They look cool. I love them.
Which is thingy, because that's what they're meant to do, isn't it?
Yeah. They are designed for killing big things. I love them. I really love the stat line, the aesthetic, like everything about them. I'm a fan.
Lore, yeah, they're one of the better newer additions, shall we say?
They're not as. I don't think we see them in a competitive scene because the boogies have taken so much of a spotlight. But I think when the boogies and the Daca Jets get sort of shit on a bit, I think people will probably start bringing 12 or 18 Squig Hog Boys. The
hogs.
Yeah, 30 to 40 wild hogs. I don't know if anyone knows that meme. Anyway, yeah. So if you don't want to bring beast snaggers and you're more interested in playing a speed freaks army, then you can instead play warbikers, who are basically the Evil Sun's equivalent to Squig Hog Boys. They are, I think they're only toughness 5, which is weird, considering the Squig Hogs are tougher. But they're much of the same. They're exactly the same cost. They have higher movement. They have auto advance 6 inches. They have -1 to hit against them from ranged attacks because they billow out smoke. They're fast as hell. They have a new army of renown in the new Octarius book. So speed freaks get like a custom army which makes these warbikers specifically very good. It gives them obsec, which is bananas, like a 20-inch obsec biker unit, T5, 3 wounds, 4 wounds on a boss knob, with a 4-up save is actually pretty scary. Yeah. They have 2 Daca guns on each bike, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's 2 Daca guns. Yeah, 2 Daca guns, which is 5 shots, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. But if you call a speed war, it becomes AP -1, and they all get an extra shot each as well. So each squad of 3 is putting out 18 shots at 5 -1, 1. But if you run like squads of 9, I think you can take, it gets a little bit silly, and you start putting out like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of strength 5 AP -1, 1 damage shots, which is a little bit scary.
And then you can start hiring things like a Mad Dog on bike still, can you?
I don't think so. I think he got legended.
Did he get legended?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure he did, yeah. Unfortunately. Because he doesn't have a model. Doesn't even have a Forge World model. They just have... Oh, they've also got... There's a strat called Drive by Daca. Let me find it.
Drive by.
Oh, yeah.
GTA, mate.
So Drive by Daca is for Evil Sons. So these warbikers can shoot and then move again. So they can advance 20 inches, call a war so they can advance and shoot without penalty, shoot like 90 shots if you've got a squad of like 7 or 8. AP strength 5, AP -1, 1 damage, and then move another 14 inches, and then -1 to hit. So they're just kind of like a real ball ache to deal with.
Does that mean you can, if you don't advance them, can you move, shoot, move, charge?
Yes.
Nice. So it's
Wait,
like
what the fuck? Oh wait, no. That unit is not eligible to charge.
I was gonna say.
I was gonna say, fucking hell.
Yeah, no. So they can move, shoot, move, but they can move, shoot, move 34 inches. So they can cover pretty much half the board in a single turn, and shoot and actually contribute to the battle. Yeah, they're
Not bad.
pretty good. So I'm quite interested to see how they perform with the new Army of Renown, because the new Army of Renown, you're not allowed to take anything except Speed Freak keyword models and planes and trucks. So you're not allowed to take infantry. Instead, your warbikers become your infantry because they've got the obsec keyword. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So I imagine people will run like the Warboss and Warbike or the Deathkiller Wartrike as the HQs. A shitload of warbikers in the fast attack slot, and then just buggies and jets, I guess. And I think the custom Army Renown gives them all an Invuln save as well, which is just like, I feel like every army is getting an Invuln save as part of like their custom rules at the moment. But yeah, I suppose it's one way to make them a little bit more viable. Speaking of jets, another item that is on the naughty step is the Daca Jet, which kind of sucked absolute cock in 8th edition. But now suddenly with the rise of freebooters and the more Daca custom job, this guy, I'm gonna have to calculate this because I forget. So it has 6 super shooters. It starts off with 2 or 4, and you can add an extra.
Super shoot.
Yeah, dude, it makes his shooter the super shooter.
Oh my god.
So he has 6 super shooters, which are 6 -1/1, and it gets 6 shots if you're within half range, which you're almost always within half range because these things move 60 inches. So 36 shots at 6 -1/1. If you give it the more Daca custom job on a 4+, no, yeah, on a 4+, it gets an extra shot with each of its guns, so it becomes 6 times 7 shots instead, which is what 41 shots instead of 36. And
Quick
then
math.
if you roll a 6, it gets 2 or 3 extra shots with all of its guns. So it just gets shitloads of shots, like an unreasonable amount of shots at 6 -1/1. And so these things like have a tendency to wipe a unit if you get lucky, that is. And so a lot of people are running multiples of these guys. They count for engage on all fronts. They move 20 to 60 inches. They have shitloads of shots. They're -1 to hit. They've got ramshackles, so they're -1 to damage on anything that's got a strength less than 8. So they're a pain in the ass to shoot down, and they're a pain in the ass to kill. And they're just a ball ache to deal with in general unless you move block their bases. So I can kind of see why they become such a force to be reckoned with in competitive armies. And the models are cool as fuck. Like, I think the planes, before the Beast Snagger units came out, the planes are probably some of my favorite models because they're just so ridiculous looking. Especially if you can paint them well.
A good size as well, they're pretty big.
Yeah, they're nice and chunky. It made me feel like what I'd purchased was worthwhile. Moving on to the final big dermage model of the army is the Kill Rig, which was kind of like people were scared of it before it even released. And it is kind of scary and cheap at the same time. It's got the same stat line as a Land Raider, I think.
Hello.
So it's like a 2-up save, 6-up invuln, T8, 14 wounds. So it's already ludicrously difficult to kill. It's very cheap. But it has a Psyker on top, who has 2 very powerful psychic abilities that do shitloads of mortal wounds in the way of Frazzle and Squiggly Curse.
No.
It has extremely powerful shooting in the way of a huge lobber, a Snagger gun, and the Psyker's Tower, which gets +1 to hit if you cast a spell. It has awesome melee because it has a bunch of attacks from the saw blades on the side, a bunch of attacks from the giant squig that's pulling it forwards, and a bunch of attacks from the boys that are hanging off the side with a bunch of like cogs on sticks is how I will describe their weapons. And
finest orc engineering.
Yeah, and not only that, but it has an ability on its snagger thing, so it got FAQ'd because it would cause planes to auto-explode. But if it successfully hits or successfully wounds a vehicle, the vehicle cannot move if it's outside of 12 inches. So it can't run away. I think it can only get closer. So if you find like your kill rig is right next to a tank that really, really, really does not want to be in melee range,
Is it like a weird tractor beam?
Yeah, they can just light a kind of. It's just a harpoon. It's a literal harpoon.
Oh,
It's a
right.
missile with chains attached to it. And so they kind of fire it at a vehicle and don't let it drive away. And all of this for like what, 180 points? It's kind of pushed. I've never seen it in a. I literally have not seen it in a GT list though. I think the Boogies and the Daca Jets are so overpowered that nobody gives a shit about the kill rig. But like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of units that are suddenly going to be seeing a lot of play when an FAQ drops to tone down the squig buggies in the plane. So I expect the kill rigs to see a lot of play.
Yeah, I mean, competitive players are always going to take the path of least resistance.
It's an awesome looking model, and it has awesome rules. So I have one. Hopefully, it will get painted by the time we finish painting the entire Orc army, and we can bring it to the table. I think my Orc list has got quite a lot of snagger stuff in it. Yeah, a lot of the troops, the cavalry, and the kill rig, and then a nice little speed creep detachment. And finally, the old reliable, the most iconic model in the entire Orc range is the lowly truck, which is cheap as fuck. Cheapest truck Teeth can buy.
Hell yeah.
It's got ramshackle, it's open top so Orcs can shoot out of it, and it transports 12 instead of the stupid 10 or whatever that a lot of transports use to transport. So you can bring a squad of tank busters or a squad of boys and a HQ and drop them off. The most interesting part is there's a custom mob, not a custom job, called Truck Boys, where a squad of Truck Boys, which is, I believe, any Orc infantry unit, so your Orc Boys or your Beast Snagger Boys or whatever, they can disembark out of a transport after it's moved and still declare a charge. So what a lot of people have been doing is they've been taking a squad of like meganobs, a squad of 5 meganobs or 6 meganobs, bundling them into a truck and making them Truck Boys, driving the truck however far it drives. I think it's 12 or 14 inches. Let me check. I think you might be able to advance the truck as well. It moves 12. So you can kind of advance it a bunch of inches and then advance the meganobs out and then charge. So suddenly the meganobs have a very, very, very viable way of getting into melee, provided the truck doesn't get blown up first turn. Because it's only T6, which is relatively low for a transport. It's got 10 wounds and it's got a 4-up save, but it does have ramshackle. So they're kind of good. They're only 70 points. And even if you were to only run one with a squad of meganobs in it, I think it would be like a nice addition to the army. And that's it for units. There's shitloads more. Fuckloads more. I've covered about 1/10 of the army roster. Yeah, so there's plenty more for people to look at, but I've picked out the models that are A, either most competitive, B, are going to become most competitive once an FAQ hits, or C, the ones that I like the most. But that should hopefully give people a general idea of how they could build a relatively simple Orc list. James, do you want us to come to you before or after the army lists?
I don't mind. I mean, I can have a little go of it now. I mean, much again like the units that you guys have got. Like, there is so much, like, so many rabbit holes you can go down in with the Orc culture and the background and lore. It genuinely is one of the richest non-imperial, if not the richest non-imperial or Xeno army out there. And like I say, I could end up talking for weeks, but I think, to be honest, if I try and keep it to 10-15 minutes. So obviously the best way to start is probably with the big boy himself, Gazgul Thracker. He is the current war boss of war bosses, self-proclaimed prophet of Gork and Mork. Gork and Mork themselves are the Orcs gods, shall we say. The Orcs, much like the Eldari and the other one, sorry. The Eldari, the Orcs, and
Tau?
No, not the Tau. The Orcs were created by the old ones.
Oh, Necrons.
No, Necrons were
No. They were created by the old ones to fight the Necrons.
Yeah.
So you had the Orcs, the Eldari. Wasn't there a third race?
There are some minor ones, but nobody cares.
Yeah,
I think the Jakiro.
Anyway. Yeah, the Jacaro. No, you're right. They were. So like I say, it's been around since the dawn of time. Certainly a lot older than the human race, shall we say?
The
seeing as how they
filthy
took part
Umis.
in much older than the Umis. So modern day, you've got Gazgul himself and his retinue. There is rumored to be in Gazgul's retinue, and I am digging back to second edition codex here. This goes back a while. So Orchimedes. Has anybody else heard of Orchimedes? No. So Imperial scholars have so far only been able to speculate about the presence in the warlord Gazgul's retinue of the technical genius whom they have dubbed Orchimedes. Although the individual has not been identified, his handiwork has been reported many times in Armageddon. The teleporters used in the Orcs' Fortress of the Giant submersibles used at Hell's Reach and Tempestera, the deadly unhinged gargants in Gazgul's Horde. All of these indicate the presence of an alien machination of terrible ability, one who's being actively sought by agents of the Officio Assassinorum.
God
So,
damn.
So there's a clever orc among them, which actually is a nice little segue. So orcs, much like the power of the war and the belief in stuff, orcs do get, or the big boss can get more intelligent the bigger the war. And this was proven back just after the end of the heresy. There's a good few books out there by Black Library called The Beast Arises. And it's set, like I say, just after the end of the heresy, a couple of thousand years. And there's basically a very, very, what they believe is one clever orc that's managing to teleport entire moons above terror and everything. It was almost the collapse of the Imperium to one extent, not far long after the heresy. Ultimately, they were beaten by no other than the Imperial Fists and the successors chapters, with a little bit of help from a Primarch by the name of Vulcan.
I genuinely thought you were going to say they were beaten by the Ultramarines by Cato Sicarius.
Hell yeah.
I was ready for that to be said, and I was like, the fucking bastard. Fucking Matt Ward.
No. Unfortunately enough, this one was escaped the Wardisms. Funnily enough, though, side note, so the Orcs actually completely destroyed the Imperial Fist chapter to a man, and the Imperial Fists themselves had to be rebuilt by stock from the successor chapters.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little factoid that not a lot of people know.
Is that why they're so shit nowadays?
Yeah. Probably.
God.
We just alienated an entire yellow marine. But yeah, so like I say, orcs have been around since dawn of time. Very, very dangerous race. People don't give them enough credit, like Nathan said at the beginning. If they basically got themselves together and got that organised, which, to be fair, Gazgul's on the precipice of doing, they could actually wipe out like every other race going. There's a few little highlights. So there was a guy by the name of Inquisitor Critman. Thought it would be a really, really, really good idea to steer the Orcs smack bang in the pathway of a Tyranid High Fleet. And basically burnt, what's it called, where there were firestorm of planets. Killed all these planets off, made the Tyranid's head for the Orcs. And now they're just in a stalemate battle, basically, because obviously
the Orcs are having the time of their lives.
The Orcs are having the time of their lives, and to be fair, so is the Nids, because they're just consuming biomass at an equal rate to what Orcs produce it. Because ultimately, when an Orc dies, it produces a load of fungus, which then produces more Orcs. And the more Orcs die, the more Orcs.
That's the one thing I don't think we've actually talked about is the Orcs are just space foot fungus, really.
Yep.
They are the mushrooms, mate. They have there's an interesting bit on the entire life cycle. So, like I say, Orc dies, produces a load of spores. Spores seep into the ground. You end up with a few mushrooms above ground, particularly like shaded areas, funnily enough. And the Orc grows in a little sack under the ground and then emerges. And for whatever unbeknownst reason, depending on the existing conditions, shall we say, of the planet, it will either produce squigs, Gretchen, orcs, or snots, which are like even smaller than squigs. So basically, whatever best suits the
environment.
The environment at the time. Thank you, Nathan. And obviously, with there being plenty of Gribblies, as they like to call the Tyranids. Sorry, it's just they're just on overdrive, producing more and more orcs, and obviously, the more orcs fight, the bigger they get. And the fact that they're like, pretty much born into fighting. There's some nasty ass orcs and some nasty ass nids, and basically at the minute the Imperium's kind of sitting there going, I wonder who's going to win. Either way,
with
not
concern.
looking pretty. Yes, with serious concern, or what should be serious concern. There's a couple of orcs of note that I thought I'd discuss. One is an absolute legend. Basically, his story goes, he was a speed freak, so ties into the new army if you want to do him. And I think he's actually a Forge World model.
Oh, that's not
the
Rooker?
No, it's was Daca Gutsmeg.
Oh.
So he's an Orc mech boy, an Orc warbiker. Some say perhaps the greatest that ever lived. He rides a heavily modified Orc warbike known as the Bike of the Apocalypse.
Got him.
Apocalypse, I know, it's great. And it's outfitted with a monstrously powerful shooter called the Daca Cannon that apparently can even bring down tanks. Basically, this guy invaded a Forge World, and I think it was Styges off the top of my head. Can't remember. Didn't write it down, so sorry. Anyway, invades this Forge World. They send out a Warlord Titan along with a load of knights, and this Warlord Titan's just completely chewing through his army, and he gets so enraged. He comes up with a cunning plan, and basically waits for the Titan to pass a mountain, and times a speed run up the mountain, and basically dives off the edge of this cliff on his bike, shooting down into the face of this Warlord Titan, crashes his bike straight into its head, and then proceeds to get off the bike and murder what's left of the princess and the crew inside, and fells an actual Warlord Titan.
Brutal but cunning.
Or was it cunning but brutal? Fuck, I don't know.
Oh yeah, man. Another one is Grizguts. Have you heard of this one, Nathan?
No.
Have you heard of this? Have you heard of this?
I heard of this. Grizguts. He's another one. This dude managed to goes off on one of these wars, and using warp travel actually went back in time. And when he realised he went back in time, he's like, hang on.
Yes, I have heard.
So he's like, if I'm here and this is now, then the old me must be here. So he went off to found himself, was like, oi, you. He turned around and looked at himself and went, what the? And he proceeded to shoot him point blank in the head, just so he could have a second version of his favourite shooter.
And now he's got two.
And
he's now fighting endlessly?
Yeah, basically. However...
Like he's owned by Khorne, isn't he?
No, that's another guy.
Oh.
Sorry. No, so Grizguts' war got... basically, the confusion that led after he killed himself, kind of he petered himself out. But yes, there is another one. Again, I wish I'd wrote that down because I did skim over it. But you're right. Basically, there's a war boss that went off doing a war, and specifically like fighting the Chaos Demons. Khorne recognized this and basically took him and his entire war and dumped it on a demon world. And now and he's another orc that's having the time of his life because they basically fight the demons, either gets killed or kills them all, and then if he wins, he's killed just by the planet. And then at the start of the new day, Khorne brings everybody back to life and they start the whole thing all over again. So
And
he's just
totally
in an
cool with
endless
it.
war. He's totally cool with it. He's not. He's having the time of his life, mate. And they're just a few, like I say, of the richer.
Interestingly,
orc
I learned
boys.
recently that Gazgul Thracker's name is actually
Steve.
If you translate it, it stands for. I think it stands for Big Boss Iron Jaw, or Iron Jaw Big Boss, or something to that effect.
Right, which makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, and he also has a metal head. And I believe he once closed a small, like, not the Eye of Terror, but like a small tear in the warp where demons were pouring through by headbutting it really hard.
Huge.
Yeah.
And the guy who pieced him back together is a Death Skulls character who you can actually run in the game called Mad Doc Grotsnik, is it?
Grotsnik. I was going to say Orksnik, but yeah, I think you're right. Mad Doc Grotsnik.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pain boy. And then there's his favourite grot, Makari, who is a lie. He's a filthy lie. This whole time, Gazgul thought it was the same grot the whole time who was suspiciously lucky. But it turns out that every time he accidentally sat on him and killed him, they would just replace him with a different grot and tell him that he was Makari.
Oh, that's mint.
And that's why on the tabletop he's got a 2-up inborn save. Because he's suspiciously lucky.
Amazing.
And I think he has like a shitty strength 2 AP0 1 damage dagger. Except on like a 6 to wound, it does like a buttload of mortal wounds. I'm gonna have to check.
He's awesome. He's a big chap.
He's funny as fuck. Yeah, here we go.
He's a little Chad, yeah.
It's strength.
He's a short king.
Strength 3, AP0, 1 damage. He's got 2 attacks. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified wound roll of 6 inflicts D3 mortal wounds. Suspiciously lucky, 2-up inborn save, but if it's failed, then it has no effect for the rest of the battle. He gets extra 2 inch to his move as long as he's within 3 inches of Gaz, and he gives everyone a 6-up feel no pain around him.
Man.
Yeah. Oh, and if he's if Gazgul's in your
come with the new model.
Yeah, and if he's in your if Gazgul's in a detachment, he doesn't take up a detachment slot either. I didn't know that. So you can bring Makari for his points and not take up a slot.
Yeah. I think he only gives the feel no pain to Grots, though.
No, it's all Goth Orcs.
Oh shit!
You
should run him in like.
Yeah, he's 55 points. He gives a 6-up feel no pain to all Goth Orcs within 3 inches, as well as Gazgul as well. So Gazgul gets a feel no pain from him. He's got a 2-up inborn save. He gets an extra 2 inches to move. All Gretchen get to use his leadership instead of their own. But he's only got leadership 6, so it doesn't make too much difference. And yeah, he doesn't take up a slot as long as Gazgul's in your army. He also has a warlord trait that you can take called Follow Me, lads. You can add 1 to the charge roll for anything that's within engagement range of him. So yeah, he's fine. He's 55 points though. It's just kind of like 55 points for what is essentially just feel no pain, and that's about it, I guess.
I mean, in an army of memes.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, in an army of memes, you take Gaz, you take Makari, you take a shitload of boys and trucks, and just go ham.
Oh, she would.
Yeah, but
the dream.
That is
there's
that.
Also just.
Oh yeah.
I'll go on. No, I was just going to say very quickly, going back to the Squigs, because you mentioned you recently learned about the hair Squigs.
Yes.
So there is some amazing Squigs. One of my favourite one is the Gob Squig, which is a tiny little squig that the Orcs use to clean their teeth. They just chuck the gut open their mouth and the little gobswigs crawl in, and they just leave them there for a few days, and the little gobswigs go around their teeth, munching all the other bits of food, and that's how they have
there
such
also
good
a
oral
squig?
hygiene.
Isn't there also a squig that they have a biting head off contest with?
Is that the face?
Yes.
Is it a face hugger squig or?
I think it's like the chomper squig or something like that, where orcs have a game
I know which one you
where
mean.
they sit down opposite this squig, and whichever one can bite each other's head off wins.
Face off, yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? I'll find it. I know which one you're talking about.
But there's a lot of different kinds of squigs.
Face eater.
Ah, that's it. Face eater squig.
It's literally called a face eater squig.
And it's just teeth.
It's just teeth. Yeah, it's just teeth and a body. Teeth, eyes, and a tiny little body.
Yep.
Imagine what do you call them? Fish? You know the fish that we have in the really deep oceans where it's just a massive mouth, and the anglerfish. It looks a bit like that.
Yeah.
But with a smaller rear body. And funnily enough, did you know? So this is a nice little bit of trivia with regards to squigs. Squigs actually came from the Tyranids.
Citation needed, because they grow in the same way as orcs.
Well, yeah. So apparently, what happened
don't make sense.
So you know Ripper swarms.
Yeah.
Yes. Ripper swarms were the first Tyranid evolution after coming in contact with the Orcs, the creative Ripper swarms.
Oh, okay.
Orcs then basically came into further contact with the Tyranids, attacked a bioship, came across the Rippers, and recognized them as being Orky, so took them with them. And then from there, the kind of co-evolved, shall we say, and taking little creatures home with them. I mean, this is just in finding in bits of random trivia when I've been searching through the internet.
Yeah. GW does change their lore on occasion.
They do, yeah. There's no such thing as canon with GW.
No.
As a famous man once said, everything's true and everything's a lie, because it's always taken from the point of the victor or the point of the person who wants to make you believe what they're telling you.
Yeah, like the Imperial propaganda says that orcs are disorganized, small, and weak.
Yes, exactly. So it's now generally accepted fact that the squigs were the result of the Tyranids' manipulation of the Orcic genetic material. The Orcs discovered the squigs aboard a Tyranid bioship and subsequently recognized them as being Orky. Subsequently, taking the little creatures home with them, squigs then spread throughout Orc space. This reality explains how squigs have appeared in both Orc and Tyranid armies. Since then, Tyranid squigs have been recognized as the Tyranid subspecies that are now known to the Imperium as Rippers. Regardless of their origin, squigs are truly a vital part of Orc culture.
The more you know, the less you understand.
Like I said, highly metropolitan society.
So yeah, I'll leave you with that head brain twister.
Anyway, that's all I've got, boys. I'm done.
Army list.
I'm heading out.
Yep, pretty much. Thank you everyone for listening in. Hopefully you've been educated into a gentleman of finer culture. I imagine we'll see some changes to Orcs in the coming weeks, but hopefully Games Workshop will do good to my boys and give some of the troops a little bit more love to make them a little bit more viable in the competitive scene. But hopefully in the coming months I might be able to play Orcs, although I don't think it'll be this side of Christmas. Because, I mean, James, how long does it take to paint all of that shit? Indeed.
Indeed.
So I'm thinking January, maybe.
If what I kind of caught at the very beginning, bless you, when I first came on, you were talking about you were going to commission me to do a few bits and bobs. You want me to do the entire list you sent me?
Yes.
Damn. Oh.
You like money, right? Shut the fuck up and pay.
No, you're right. I have. Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. It's just when people say, "Now give me a time."
So after Christmas, guys.
Yeah.
Orcs.
Well, no, I think genuinely, I would like to think because there's quite a few big pieces in there, and ironically, big pieces sometimes take can be a lot quicker to do than small pieces.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't think Christmas is a bad.
Nah. I think if we said January, it would be more realistic.
I think if we said January, but that being said, it would be a Brucey bonus if we can get them out before Christmas.
Yeah. In the meantime, I'll try and finish up my kill rig and whatnot, and we'll try to fill the gap with other Xenos races. Speaking of Xenos races, next week, Wednesday, is our battle report at 7 PM. You can join us. We will be playing either Admech against the White Scars or Admech against our newly painted from Dan Harlequins.
Harlequinos?
Is it the no, it's not the candy corn, that's the Eldar, isn't it?
Yeah, they're not going to be candy corn.
Yeah, oh, fair enough. There you go. Sad face. So tune in next Wednesday at 7 PM for our battle report. And then you can tune in for our next podcast next Sunday at 7 PM. Any announcements, boys, before we peace out?
I farted.
Yeah, nice. I can smell it from here.
Taste. Taste.
Okay, it's time to stop.
Taste that and chew on it.
It's time to stop. See you boys later.
Goodbye.
Bye.